Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and clickers presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin, the father, here with Mr. Barrett Dudley. And Barrett, I can't tell you how thankful I am that last night's episode wasn't as emotionally exhausting as episode 3 because I have nothing left in the tank.
Yeah, well, it was still pretty intense. And, before I even say anything further, just allow me to be the first to congratulate you,
thank you,
here
sir.
on the podcast for the birth of your baby boy. Very, very exciting. I think that, and also just... it's good that you still have your priorities straight.
I do.
Being here on the podcast on a Monday.
Consummate professional.
Consummate professional. You gotta do what you gotta do. There's no rest for the weary. We are here to bring you this the podcasts about this show, and here we are.
Here we are. Baby on Friday, back in the studio on Monday. That's how I roll, baby.
It ain't no thing.
Yeah.
But a chicken wing.
But seriously, it was less, obviously it was, the emotional intensity of episode 3 was going to be tough to match.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And this was like a breather almost, because it was 45 minutes, right? It was shorter.
It was a shorter episode.
Shortest episode yet.
I did clock that. Yep.
And then, while it was fun and intense, we'll get into it. It was just, it felt, I was worried. And I'm happy that it went the way it did.
They didn't throw a whole nother bag of bricks on top of your chest.
Yeah. I didn't need that.
Yeah.
Didn't need that. Before we dive into today's episode, big news from HBO. It was announced today that episode 5 will be available this Friday, a couple days early. Oh my gosh. To avoid viewers having to choose between TLOU and the big game.
That's right, yeah.
The Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think are we allowed to say just Super Bowl
if it's not in an ad
on the podcast?
Yeah, we can reference it.
Yeah, okay.
As long as you're not using it in an advertising context, the NFL won't come for that ass.
Okay, that's good.
So we're good. But episode 5 will be available Friday, February 10th, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, through HBO Max and HBO On Demand. Now, because of the baby, I think Barrett and I are probably going to stick to the normal recording schedule. We'll just have the episode a couple days early. Therefore, we won't have to cram it in Sunday night.
Yeah.
And that will be nice as well. So
that will be nice.
Things are going well for me right now, Barrett. I'm very happy.
Everything is just really,
coming up, Ross.
It's coming up, Ross. That's exactly right.
So we open episode 4 with Ellie in the mirror practicing with Frank's pistol that she grabbed out of the drawer in episode 3, and Joel siphoning gas out of abandoned vehicles.
Yeah.
Which apparently he has to do really, really often because gas breaks down over time and it's like almost water.
I'm honestly surprised that there is even still gas in the cars 20 years down the line.
Think it would evaporate entirely?
Yeah, I would have thought it would have evaporated entirely, but what do I know?
Yeah, apparently he's having to do it like every hour, siphoning gas from 20-year-old abandoned cars.
You could tell that Ellie is, she's a modern child. She's a post-pandemic child through and through. And, while she's got a little bit of a grasp on some pop culture,
right,
you can tell that she's not, one of us banging on the table because she does not do the sideways gangster hold.
True. Yeah,
right?
Straight up like a professional with it.
Yeah, only,
like a little hitman.
Only straight on. And I think anybody that has ever even held a toy gun, ever.
You go gangster with it.
You go gangster side hold, at least for a little bit,
I've got the golden pistol on the table
here.
Whether
it's a Nerf gun or a golden decorative pistol, like you have,
blasting away sideways.
That's right.
Yeah, she's straight up with it. She's got some degree of form already, which we'll get to in a second. But Joel tells her not to wander, so she says, okay, this is your fault then, and busts out No Pun Intended, Volume 2, TOO, by Will Livingston. The first joke we get is, it doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary. And the next one is, what did the mermaid wear to her math class? An algae bra. And Joel does not so much as crack a slight grin. He looks like he wants to light himself on fire. So this episode...
You could wait in the car.
Yeah. It ends up being about like the progression of Joel and Ellie's relationship, really, right?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
It's shown to us by the lack of laughs here, because by the end of the episode, he is digging the puns and losing his mind laying on the ground in an abandoned building. As they cruise on to Kansas City in Bill's truck, Joel explains that Fedra used huge, big trucks with like plows on the front to clear the streets for their tanks and stuff back in the day. For everybody who was watching, myself included, that was like, how are they just cruising on down the highway here? It's because the government, the military, needed to be able to get their equipment through there, so they had already cleared a lot of it.
I loved these shots, by the way. Anytime they show like the expanse of a post-apocalypse, right, and just like the growth that happens, and like, you know, there still are the roads and the highways, but they're covered in moss and like, you know,
busted ass vehicles.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's super eerie, obviously, but I thought the visuals here were really well done.
Yes, sir. Ellie is rooting through the back seat of the truck, and she finds a Hank Williams tape first, which Joel puts on and includes the song Alone and Forsaken, with the line, "Oh Lord, if you hear me, please hold to my hand." And "Hold to My Hand" is the title of this episode. Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood moment there.
Ah, yes.
Yes. She also finds a Gay Men's Nudie Mag in the back, and we get a great line that's from the video game when she asks Joel, "Where are all these pages stuck together?" And then says, how do you even walk with that thing? Somebody in there had a hog ferret.
Yeah. Well, right. Yes.
Yeah, of course. As their drive continues, we see a Love's gas station, and there's like an Arby's sign right below it.
Yeah.
Arby's, do you think they have a deal here? You think there's one of those, what's that called? What kind of advertising is that?
Is product placement.
Product placement.
Is this not is this not true to the video game?
I don't know.
Is Arby's not just like, I just feel like
maybe it is.
Do you think maybe the Druck man is just like, he thinks it's Arby's is like hilarious?
He's a huge Arby's guy?
Or is he just a huge Arby's guy?
If you're a video game aficionado and have played this one a couple times through perhaps and know whether or not Arby's is referenced in it, let us know on Twitter, @BarrettDudley, @WRBolin.
Here's the thing. If it was product placement, I feel like we'd have already seen an ad for Arby's, like.
But they put up an ad, but they didn't feel like,
they were kind of like
playing along
with it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't totally know. Like, I think when you use brand images, a lot of the times, like, you have to get it cleared,
right?
But that it might just be like a legal thing where you're like, hey, we're gonna show an Arby's in the show, and they have to say like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not like they're shitting on Arby's. They're
Right.
saying it's disgusting, which is what I would say, because it is disgusting. But just noticed that.
But they have the meats.
They do have the meats.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Did the CGI or VFX, you were speaking to like the scope of this, did the use of green screens, did it throw you at all in this episode,
No,
Barrett?
it did not.
You big baby?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
They did better.
I think this was the thing about that second episode is you were dealing with like skyscrapers and sky and like a lot of like, and all the skyscrapers had all this like same type of stuff. This I feel like was easier to get the shots because there was already a lot of like clearly where they were pulling highway from was kind of in, you can get all that kind of open scenery with a drone shot anywhere in the country,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
They actually, when they go across that bridge, I was doing Leonardo DiCaprio whistle meme because I thought it was the Pennybacker Bridge, and then in Austin.
Oh, shit.
Because remember how they started in Austin?
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, no, they're driving from Boston to Wyoming. That doesn't make any sense. That's not the Pennybacker. Anyways, I think it was just like an easier, a more achievable effect here on the roads and with the cars, and there was probably like more like, I think there was just more actual physical set design, and I think that they were relying a little bit less on all of the CGI and green screen backgrounds.
One of the things they brought up after the episode was that in the video game it's Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
that they go
not
to,
KC, yeah.
But that they chose Kansas City because they liked their opportunities with the visuals a little bit more and the setup a little bit more, which was just interesting. I would also note, in your defense, when you got annoyed with the CGI, the VFX in Boston, rather, Boston, Massachusetts. They had that filter that they put out on Instagram. I don't know if you saw this, but you could like go to the Last of Us filter and point it at a building, and it would like turn that building into a post-apocalyptic, covered in algae ass building.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of what was throwing me a little bit at the same time, because I was like, I know how you did this. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of stuck in my head when I saw that on the gram.
Yeah.
But on the way to Kansas City, our duo pulls up off into the wilderness, rather, to camp out for the night and take a little break from driving, because Joel says he wants to get some sleep and then tomorrow drive all through the day and all through the night. But then he ends up staying up anyway and like keeping guard and watching over Ellie, which I just thought was like a cool sort of immediate after effect of like Bill's letter, right? Being a protector. I mean, he could have just crashed out on the sleeping bag. He didn't have to get up and like be the psycho who stands 15 feet away with his rifle.
I mean, he should probably get some sleep though, too.
You would think so.
A little bit.
In
Maybe
this
got a couple
situation,
hours.
You want to stay sharp.
You do want to stay sharp, I think.
Yeah. They eat 20-year-old Chef Boyardee ravioli, which I know. I'm a big Chef Boyardee ravioli guy. I'm not sure how well it would age 20 years down the road, though. Joel tells Ellie that they cannot start a fire, and she's like, what, because the infected? He's like, no, the fungus isn't that smart. But people will see the smoke, and they'll have way more in mind than just robbing them, apparently. Raiders and slavers, Barrett. Don't want that.
Yeah. Common theme, I think, in apocalyptic movies and in zombie ones as well, a little bit. But I appreciate the kind of the constant notion here that we're building that, yes, there are infected and clickers that will that have to be dealt with, but that like the worst stuff out there, as well as the best stuff still existing, as we saw last episode, but the worst and the best is still humanity, much as it is before the apocalypse as well.
Right.
But that theme continues and just kind of like separates even further a little bit. But like, I thought it was great that we didn't even get a clicker or an infected in this episode.
Yes, sir.
Didn't need one.
Very good observation.
So it was. I
didn't think about that. A single fucking infected zombie, not one.
So just kind of hammering home that there's a lot more going on than sick people running around with mushroom heads.
Yeah. There's people.
There's people
that are a problem.
And not all those people want to help people.
No, they do not. People helping people. That night while they're sleeping, Ellie turns to Joel and says she has a serious question. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? And Joel thinks for a second, and then he responds, because he was outstanding in his field.
Classic.
Good stuff. The next morning, they're back on the road again, and Ellie is disgusted by Joel's extremely old coffee, which smells like burnt shit, Ellie says, so Joel slurps it very hard. And I have to say, I'm one of these people that is extremely bothered by the sound of others consuming.
Okay.
I think it's because my mom used to eat grapefruit at the breakfast table when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And she would really slurp it, and it would bug the hell out of me, and it damaged me.
You're scaring us.
Yeah, it permanently traumatized me, this grapefruit slurping that my mom used to do. Mm-hmm. So when he's just having at that coffee, I was like, it just makes me cringe. But that's just a personal problem. I'm not trying to put that on anybody else.
Yeah.
Ellie is in charge of the map for this trip. Remember, going to find Tommy here, right? Tommy, who Joel says he last got contact from at a radio tower close to Kade, Wyoming, which I want to say I've been to. Did I go to Montana or Wyoming? Do you remember?
You went to Montana.
Okay, so I haven't been to Kade.
Because there were a lot of Big Sky jokes to be made.
That's true. That's true. I wonder if there's a Kade, Montana as well. Anyway, Joel tells Ellie that Tommy is what we call a joiner, that he joined the Army 12 years before the outbreak, and then he joined the Fireflies after meeting Marlene. But before he was a Firefly, Tommy, Joel, and Tess were in a crew, and they survived together like a little gang, right? Mm-hmm. Which obviously we end up meeting one of these similar crews later in the episode. But that was just more backstory, right? They're giving it to us on like a slow drip here, little by little. Here's what was going on before, what we saw in 2003 and what we've seen in 2023.
Yeah. Important to note here, just kind of a bit of a clam fam correction. We made the judgment after episode 1 that Joel was in the Army.
Yeah.
And not that we got like
confirmation that he wasn't,
confirmation that he wasn't, but he mentioned that Tommy joined the Army and was in Desert Storm, which is what the sticker says on the back of that truck.
Yeah.
That they're in the first episode. So like,
I think that was Tommy's truck?
I think that might have been Tommy's truck.
That's where I'm at.
And I'm not sure that Joel was in the military. And as you know, now 3 days into producing a child,
a human
child,
I made a human.
Mostly, I think what's giving him his special set of skills is just that he was a dad, and you gain like 10x strength, and you gain that special set of skills that allows you to hunt, evade, track, and kill.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And the dad dick, which nobody knows how you walk around with that thing.
But no, that just I just wanted to call that out. Tommy, he mentions Tommy
note,
specifically went to the Army. He does not say that he went. So
well, and he also seems to have a bit of disgust for the general idea of joining the Army, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can safely say Joel, no military background.
Yeah.
Tommy, military background. And maybe he taught him some things.
Sure. And I mean, I think that we know that Joel was kind of a handy dude to begin with.
An outdoorsy guy, probably, right?
Guy.
It's Austin.
Yeah.
We got a lot of hunting and fishing people here and such in Texas. So I'm going to guess that that's more where he got his experience.
He had a lot of stuff. He was putting stuff in the truck.
Yeah, he had stuff.
He had stuff.
And things.
So he knows his way around the stuff and the things.
Yeah. No, clearly he's still got whatever experience he needed to get, pick up on before the outbreak. He had it because he's good with the shits here. When Ellie asks why he keeps going, Joel, if he doesn't really believe in the world or humanity anymore, right? Joel explains that you keep going for family mostly, right? And then
it's all about family.
Yeah, he's got a real is it Dom Mazzetti?
Dom
Toretto. Mazzetti's a comedian. Dom Toretto attitude here. But then she's like, well, I'm not family. And he's like, you're right. That's right. You're cargo.
Yeah. Kind of a harsh line there.
Whew. Yeah. It's not what you want to be told by the person who's currently in charge of saving your life on a day-to-day basis. Cargo. Today's episode is brought to you by Hemp Hop at hemphop.co. Hemp Hop began in 2014 when their founder and CEO, Jordan, was determined to help his sick father, Scott, who was suffering from a condition that caused him to have swelling and seizures and severe nausea. Jordan found CBD capsules, and within 7 consecutive days of his dad taking those capsules, his seizures slowed to a complete stop. He hasn't had a seizure since, was able to get off almost a dozen medications, and over the years, Scott's swelling has disappeared, and today he's a much happier, healthier person. Hemp Hop initially started as a delivery service to get these products directly to the people that need them most, like Scott. They quickly became manufacturers, and today, 4 years later, are fully vertically integrated with cultivation and processing. They have an incredible selection, whether you're looking to elevate your vibes or just relax and not get stoned. Hemp Hop has what you're looking for. They carry a huge variety of vape carts, types, and flavors, with live resin vapes being the top seller by far. And I've been puffing on one of these things, and I got to tell you, it is awesome. The live resin vape helps you relax, does not get you stoned where you can't function, or you're just laying on the couch eating Cheetos or whatever. It's very nice. Really enjoy it. They've also got Delta 8 vapes, which are extremely popular and effective options as well. They're available in half-gram and full-gram sizes, plus edibles, a bunch of which I have on the table in front of me if you're watching on youtube.com/@oystersclamsandcockles. Hemp Hop also carries the highest quality, cleanest grown hemp flower available anywhere for the smokers out there. They don't put anything out that they wouldn't eat or smoke themselves, which is exactly why I'm so stoked to have them on board as a sponsor of our show. Very high quality products. They carry topicals, tinctures, capsules, bath bombs, and dog treats as well. If your dog is a nut and you need some CBD treats for it, like all 4 of mine, they have that as well. Hemp Hop offers shipping worldwide anywhere hemp is legal, with customers in every single U.S. state and all throughout Europe as well. And everyone in the Clam fam who is 21 years of age and up, Hemp Hop is providing a 10% off discount when you use the code DRAGON at checkout on hemphop.co. But if you place an order of $200 or more, use the code DRAGON20 and you'll get 20% off your order. Just go to hemphop.co, use code DRAGON for 10% off, or code DRAGON20 for 20% off your order of $200 or more. That's hemphop.co, must be 21 or older. When they get closer to Kansas City, they run into a roadblock at a tunnel and have to backtrack a little to get around it. Bear, what did you think of this scene? Because I rewatched it this morning in order to make our outline for the show.
Yeah.
And when they pull up, they play like eerie music. It's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be foreboding. I didn't really pick up on that, though. It wasn't like... I don't think it hit me the way it was necessarily supposed to. Yeah.
So you mentioned, before the break that the roads were pretty clear.
And then all of a sudden,
cleared a bunch of the cars. And then we get here, and there's loads of cars and a lot of dead bodies and skeletons still kind of like rotting there.
Yeah.
And so my take was like one of two things. Either something major had happened here, and it like was never cleaned up, and this was like a spot where like a bomb went off, or all the cars were set on fire, or people were murdered or executed, or whatever it might be. The other thing that I was thinking about is that I think you kind of know, you get the sense based on the context, right, that they don't want to get off the highway.
Right.
They don't want to have to go through the city. And when they do finally make that decision, you can kind of feel that he's being a little reckless about the decision. He's like, fuck it, we'll be back on the highway in 1 minute. We'll just go around. It'll be fine. No harm, no foul.
But he has to talk himself into it.
He kind of has to talk himself into it. So I also wondered if this was kind of like a trap that had been set here on the highway. Like if the what's her name? What's our kind of sort of villain's name?
Kathleen.
Kathleen, thank you. Marlene and Kathleen.
Yeah, it's tough.
Lean's out here.
Trying to get Game of Thrones with it.
A lot of ladies named Lean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you kind of wonder if her and her crew had kind of like, if they had been the ones to kind of create that blockade or move stuff around or do some bad shit to kind of like force people into the city.
In hindsight, I think that's your answer. I think you just hit it on the head. It's as you often do, Barrett. It seems like this would be evidence, and in this light, it is foreboding that Kathleen and her squad, which we'll get to in a moment, had set up this massive roadblock so that nobody could just cruise by. Right. So they'd have the opportunity to do more raiding, possibly slaving. We don't really know yet. But yeah, interesting stuff. They get turned around after they decide they're going to go around, right? Because Ellie, this is her second day in a fucking car, man. Right? Maybe the best line of the episode. And then, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to, Ellie, like, a lot of great deliveries, a lot of good lines, but I just thought she, we get to kind of like a very character building moment here for her in just a minute. But I just, overall, this is my favorite Ellie episode.
I agree.
And I thought that I thought her character really like progressed, and I thought I think that Bella Ramsey, the actor, felt more comfortable in the role here than she had in some previous episodes. It just felt more natural, more lived in.
It did feel like she kind of caught stride here.
Yeah.
As Ellie, and maybe it was also writing. Maybe this was just like the first episode. She really had the opportunity to step into the shoes,
some personality, and like she's, they're out and about now. Look, this is always a great setup, right? Whether it's Pedro Pascal as Mandalorian with Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, or what this is reminding me even more of, the Hound with Arya.
Oh yeah, dude.
We've got our little like
the buddy cop
duo thing now here, and the protector and the kid thing at play as well. And there those when there's just kind of open air and open road, whether you're walking through Westeros off of the King's Road or cruising
trying to
down
get
the
to
highway,
the Vale.
through Kansas City, those kind of like open moments are just kind of those are ripe for the character building.
What a fucking pro, this guy. Bringing the Hound and Arya into it, man. That's a great comparison. It really is, because like so many of those conversations were some of the more entertaining moments and convos that took place in Game of Thrones because of the differentiation, right? Yeah. This old, hardened, battle-worn killing machine.
Yep.
And then this little girl.
Yep.
Who, in the case of Arya, ends up being quite the killing machine herself.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens with Ellie. They pass the Kansas City QZ, and it has been completely overthrown. Ellie asks, "Where the fuck is Fedra?" And immediately you start to get the feeling like, oh, God, like you were saying, like this might be a bit of a trap. Then they see a dude pretending to be hurt, and Joel spots this ambush from a mile away, which we'll get to, why he was able to spot that so quickly. But suddenly they're being ambushed. Joel crashes the truck into a building. A firefight ensues. He tells Ellie to crawl back into this hole in the wall while he deals with the two dickheads that are shooting at him. He shoots one from his position.
Yeah. And
then he kind of baits the guy to walk into the building that he's in, the guy's an idiot. What a dumbass.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy gets got.
A couple things. One, we learn later that Joel knew this was an ambush. Still not sure why he drove at the ambush rather than continue. Because doesn't he
try to go a different direction?
Doesn't he like turn the car to go towards it?
He definitely goes right past the guy that was like pretending to be hurt, right? Because he almost hits him.
Right. No, he tries. I think that's what he's going to do. Is just going to
try to run
this dude over.
And then he's getting shot at from above.
Yeah, and like they dropped the bricks on the truck. So maybe he just didn't anticipate the exact style of the ambush. He just knew that it was some type of setup and trap, and he wanted to get out of it. But
as quickly as possible, I think.
I did
yeah.
that was one thing I was questioning. It's like, why didn't, if he knew that it was a setup, I'm a little surprised that he didn't just drive the other way.
Or like throw it in reverse
or something. And then once we get into the firefight, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I thought it was actually pretty positive. This was like quintessential video game.
Oh yeah.
When you are crouched behind something and like bullets are just flying, but it's like the difference is in like I feel like in a war movie, for example, the bullets are just like kind of, it's like a constant barrage.
Yeah.
And in a video game, it's like bing, 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 bing. And then it's like, there's these little
Come out,
breaks.
motherfucker.
Yeah. And the two guys that are shooting are like, they're also behind a truck, but they're like kind of taking turns and like bobbing up at different times. And like, it's kind of this whack-a-mole situation.
Yeah.
But you could, and it always creates like, it creates stress.
Oh yeah.
A stress environment when you're playing the video game. You get like, you
pinned down back there.
You get pinned down. You feel kind of shell shocked and all that type of stuff. And so I thought it's nice how like this episode didn't feel like a video game, the way that some moments in episode 2 did, but they're still able to kind of include those moments that you like recognize.
Like, oh, this has to be straight out of the game.
Like a gameplay moment.
Yeah, even you and me being past the points in the video game that we played, I could still pick out a couple different scenes where I was like, oh, this must have been straight from the game because it feels just like a video game moment. And this was certainly one of them. Yeah, no, good call. But then after Joel kills, murks this second guy, he thinks he's dealt with everybody, and then a third dude sneaks in, attacks him, and is choking him to death when Ellie comes out with Frank's pistol. Now, at first, she was going to bring out the switchblade. She's like, I've got my knife. And then she's like, now, wait a minute. I have a gat. Mm-hmm. She grabs the gat. And she saved Joel's life here, I think. Yeah. Is, first of all, like, they really give you that moment, the close-up shot, where his eyes are going kind of bug-eyed and, like, he's starting to turn a little purple or whatever, because, like, this guy is choking him to death.
Yeah.
Like, I think this would have been the end had Ellie not stepped up here, which is just kind of an important thing to grasp about the scene, I think. She saved his life, and I knew it, man. I was right. I knew the moment that she first used a gun would be a big one.
They well, and it's kind of, it's wild to think about, right? They have been setting up this gun moment since the first episode, right?
3 episodes.
Doesn't she ask for a gun in the very first episode?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Because like
yes, she does.
Joel and Tess leave with her. They leave the Boston QZ at the end of the first episode.
Yeah, when they're going into the museum, I believe, she tries to get a gun, and they're like, no.
Well, that's episode 2.
Oh, that's episode 2.
Yeah. So maybe it only started in episode 2. But
she's asked like 3-4 different times.
She's definitely asked multiple times. So you knew that there was gonna be some type of payoff. With this.
Even in the you know how before the episode they play like previously on The Last of Us. They don't say that anymore. I miss the days when they did say it like verbally. But they show the scene where she's like, "There's a wall of them," just to remind you one more time. Like, remember, she's been trying to get a gun over and over.
Yeah.
So yeah, clearly they wanted that in the back of your mind. And Joel, after she shoots the dude once, and it looks like sort of in the lower back or like in his ass, right? Like not in his ass, but you know, you know what I'm saying. Because he ends up losing the ability to walk. He can't feel his legs. So he's like paralyzed in some form or fashion. But Joel sends her back into her hidey hole. And then as we find out later, because it's not on screen, he stabbed the dude directly through the heart. Like we see this guy's body with Kathleen here in a minute. And the stab wound is right there. I mean, he just went ahead and just offed the guy.
Yeah.
Puts him out of his misery because, again, Ellie's shot seemed like it paralyzed him. And also, Joel is just clearly not happy with the guy for attacking him, right? Not something he's going to let anybody get away with. I don't know that we're going to find a moment of mercy from this dude where he's like, I'm going to let you live, right?
Well, this dude
he can go back and tell the rest of the crew or whatever.
Yeah. And also, that guy was just about to kill him. Was like seconds away from killing him.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is kind of like a killer be killed situation.
And you failed to kill, so now you're going to get killed.
Yeah.
Also, he does yell out like, "I'll tell the rest of y'all, the rest of them that y'all are good. It's going to be fine." And he's like, "My mom's back there too." And then they really make it brutal though when you see Ellie back behind the wall in the hidey hole, and the guy's like, "Mom, Mom," and it makes me wonder if Kathleen is his mom.
Could be.
But then she doesn't like... Well, we'll get to it. Yeah, we'll get to it. Also, behind the wall, we have this moment where Ellie wipes away her tears really quickly, like, just a couple of little and then immediately moves on and ends up moving the stuff away from the door so that Joel can get in there. And just for the non-gamers, like half of the video game was moving shit so you could get to different places. That was a lot of the game. So that was another moment that was just a nice little homage. Straight out of that, from there, we see a woman interrogating a Dr. Edelstein, I'll say. And Kathleen is the woman. She's played by Melanie Linsky, who I know from Yellow Jackets.
Yellow Jackets,
yeah.
Yes. And I know from way back in the day as the weird girl that was obsessed with Charlie on 2.5 Men.
Oh, wow. You know why she's easy to remember for me? It's her very distinct voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's something that as long as I've known her, which is a long time, and the distinct voice, I guess I'd never heard her talk outside of a show. Because in the inside of the episode, when she pops on and clearly has a weird accent, which I identified as Australian, was wrong, and it's Kiwi. She's from New Zealand.
Okay.
I had no clue that she was from New Zealand.
That's a hell of an American Karen accent she's got there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That she has used for her entire career.
For every single thing I've seen her in.
Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess it's weird when you live in that kind of like that area of celebrity and kind of actor where she exists.
Yeah.
And really has been having a moment the last few years, but like prior to that has always been in stuff, but never like as the star or the lead, usually a kind of a role, supporting player, character actor, that type of thing. I just feel like I would have known that she had this crazy Kiwi accent.
Since you bring up the Kiwis, Murray Bartlett, he's Australian, right? Not saying that's related, but like just another.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, the reason I know this is because one of the things that HBO has been doing a lot of since episode 3 aired is putting out these bits and clips onto social media, whether it be Instagram or TikTok, of Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett speaking to their experience making episode 3. And my assumption is that they wanted to get as much of this marketing material out as possible to build the buzz even further than it already was, but also because these two gentlemen were only in one episode, right? So you kind of got to get the full, take advantage of these. These guys are stars. They're incredible. They crushed, and they're huge, have a lot of fans. So they're putting out a lot of these little interviews of both of them either talking with each other about their experience or individually being asked questions. And Nick Offerman said that Murray Bartlett was just the kindest, sweetest Australian man and like the best scene partner he could hope for. And like they just had so many nice things to say about each other that you can kind of tell. Obviously, I can't speak to in what way, but they kind of fell in love with each other, like doing the show. And it made it even cooler to me. I mean, I'm assuming based on how well the interviews went, that's the other reason they chose to pump out so much of it. But I've really enjoyed those. If you haven't watched any of them, go to the Last of Us social media pages, check out Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett talking about their experience on the show. It was really fun for me to take in. So back to Kathleen. She's interrogating this guy who's a doctor, right? Dr. Edelstein. He turns out her brother, Kathleen's brother, was beaten to death by Fedra at some point, okay? And it seems to have like fueled her into being a psychotic revolutionary leader who interrogates the doctor that delivered her into the world at gunpoint.
Yes.
Which is they did a phenomenal job of building out this Kathleen character in a very short period of time.
Totally.
As a brutal woman who has like been broken by this post-apocalyptic world.
They also do they also do as best they can, I think, and I feel like you kind of understand that they're sort of like the Fireflies, but also now that they won, they're just the people, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like they were the resistance in a way that feels similar to what the Fireflies are trying to achieve in the Boston QZ and elsewhere. But you do keep seeing like either the inscriptions on the van or whatever that are like "We the People," and like it's very much this kind of organic, like grassroots, like the people rose up. They took over.
They took the power.
And now things are maybe not better.
Yeah. I mean, that's another
Which
thing.
they kind of mentioned at the inside of the episode.
They did,
right?
yeah. They talk about how oftentimes throughout history you have these revolutionary groups that overthrow an evil government of sorts, and then they're worse than the people that they overthrew.
Or equally as bad, or just a different kind of bad, or something like that. So
absolutely,
that kind of seems to be what we're dealing with here, and we watch her. Now, we watch her, as you said, be pretty brutal. She's commanding that they kill all of them, I think is the quote, as in everybody that had anything to do with Fedra.
All the collaborators.
Yeah, all the Fedra collaborators, and including our Dr.
Edelstein.
Edelstein? I don't know. Who named names.
Yes, yeah. She was trying to get him to name a lot of names. And it almost had a Nazi feel to it, where she was like throwing out this one family, this other family, this dude. Have you seen any of these people? Because she's looking for a man named Henry, right? But the good doctor won't help her find him. Henry, here's my read. Henry seems to me to be a former member of her crew who didn't like I'm assuming, was part of the crew. They overthrew Fedra. Then he realized how broken Kathleen was and that she was doing evil shit. And this was not going to be better. And then he abandoned the crew and he defected or something, I think. That's my read. We'll see.
The doctor?
No. Henry.
Henry.
Who she's looking for. But before she can finish her interrogation of this doctor, she's called out to find the 3 dead guys that Joel killed. They found Joel's truck. They know they were armed. And the soldier tells her where they found them and about Joel/Bill's truck. And the soldier that informs her on all this, the bearded one, is actually the dude who played Joel's brother Tommy in the video game.
Tommy, yes.
Tommy's voice in the video game, played by Jeffrey Pierce, who is the bearded guy who's kind of Kathleen's right-hand man throughout this episode. Kathleen asks if one of the injured men will live, and when she's told no, she says, "What if I had a doctor?" And she's told there's no chance, so she walks straight back to the interrogation room and executes Dr. Edelstein just right there on the spot, which was kind of weird, but also, again, just further character building for her. Then she pins all of this, the 3 dead bodies, all on this Henry fella that she's looking for. And she tells people to find him and who did this and find every collaborator and kill them all. And so it seems like they were the rebels, they overthrew Fedra, and then a rebel group sprung out from the rebel group, and that's what Henry is a part of, and they're trying to stop them or something here.
Yeah, maybe. That's an interesting take. Once we get to, the kind of once we see who is maybe Henry later in the episode.
I'm positive that's him.
Right, yeah. I was a little thrown, and I think the way they kind of looked maybe fits in with your take, because they do seem like regular people.
Yeah.
But my original read was that they had something to do with Fedra's capture and execution of her brother and others.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think these people split off from her.
Okay.
Because she seems like she has a really close relationship with them. She says enough about them to make me think she really knows them, and then maybe even had some kind of a personal relationship with them. So
that makes sense.
But yeah, we'll get further into that. She has, again, very sweet voice, looks just like a middle-aged Karen, Kathleen, which makes her all the more terrifying when she's giving violent orders. What the hell is that? Our laptop was getting a phone call, which is strange. Sorry. But back with Joel and Ellie, we can see Joel is really struggling as he's in his mid-50s, okay? His body's breaking down from all the car crashing and the hand-to-hand combat and such. And he blames himself for Ellie having to have shot this man earlier in the episode because he didn't hear him coming, right? Mm-hmm. You can tell he's really struggling with the guilt of this young girl having done violence on his behalf. And he basically tries to do some talk therapy with Ellie here to make sure she's okay with what she had to do. And she kind of laughs at him you're really bad at this. He's like, yeah, I am. But he apologizes to her, point blank. I'm sorry. That's on me. I should have heard him coming. You shouldn't have had to do that. It's my fault. And Ellie has another little bit of a teary reaction here, but quickly wipes them away and then says it wasn't her first time.
Yeah.
Hurting someone. Presumably shooting someone. We're gonna have to get more information later on. So Joel decides, you know what? She's earned it. She saved my life. Let's get into the basics of pistol safety here with a 14-year-old girl that he sees as cargo. So she already knew some of it. You brought up at the beginning of the episode that she didn't hold it sideways.
No sideways gangster hold.
Wasn't getting gangster with it.
Yep.
We find out here that she learned the basics in Fedra school, which Joel's like, of course you did. But he lets her keep the pistol. She just has to put it in her pack so she doesn't shoot her damn ass off. Because you don't want to shoot your own ass off.
You'll shoot your ass off.
You'll shoot your eye out. Yeah. Back with Kathleen and her crew.
Go ahead. Notable that she does not listen to that instruction and instead puts the gun into her jacket pocket when he is not looking. Yeah.
Not a great listener, the little girl.
Yeah, watch out for asses being shot off is all I'm saying.
No, she's going to shoot her ass off, Barrett. That's a shame. Back with Kathleen, they find a place where Henry was clearly hiding, okay? Like a place that he has recently left, and apparently he has a little kid with him based on the drawing that Kathleen finds there. Kathleen also proclaims that they are out of food, and she says, Henry won't let Sam starve. Now, Sam is presumably the little boy that is with him operating at the end of the episode. So this is where I got the read, like, oh, she knows this guy. Like, maybe he was one of the leaders of this rebellion with her that bounced. Then her and her bearded friend that was the voice of Tommy in the video game continue searching around, and they stumble across a room. This is obviously one of the more climactic pieces of the episode here. They stumble into this room that has busted up concrete that's kind of sunken in, right? It almost looks like a small bomb was maybe detonated in this room. And it seems like immediately Kathleen and this soldier she's with know what that means. They're like, oh, shit. And then, oh my God, all of a sudden the concrete is moving and there's got to be a fucking bloater in there. Like that's a bloater. It's going to come up through the concrete. We're going to see it next episode.
That's what's happening?
Yeah, I'm 99% sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so two part. One, these two have dealt with bloaters before. They know what's in there.
My first reaction was that it was a giant sinkhole. And that they're worried that, like, I don't know, Kansas City's going to fall through the floor or something. Then my other thought was that, like, it was going to be, like, lots of infected, and they're, like, burrowing through somewhere and going to come out from the...
They're tunneling.
They're tunneling or something like that.
Ants. A whole bunch of them coming out.
Yeah, but...
I don't think you might be onto something there with that last one.
Okay.
But I think the bloater would be leading the tunneling. Because, like, you know how and then they do the next time on The Last of Us, and we see
a jacked mushroom guy.
Yeah, the guy from the trailer. He's coming, and
you think he's coming right?
That's him.
Yeah, okay.
I know it's him. I'm positive it's him.
So what can you describe, like, the mechanics of what you think's happening under there? Like,
I really don't know.
You think he's just under there?
That's why I'm saying it may be some tunneling going on of some kind, because I don't know. But I do know in the trailer, the original trailer for this show,
and you think all the cracking
see him crawl out of the ground.
Okay,
like he comes up out of the concrete. And the second they walked in and I saw the ground start moving, I was like, oh, shit, this is going to be our first bloater. Because this conversation continues where she has to instruct the soldier not to inform the others that basically, like, hey, we found another bloater sinkhole, because that seems to be a thing that they're aware of, right?
Yeah.
She says she wants to deal with one thing at a time, and her soldier buddy does not seem happy about that plan. Like, he's just like, oh, this is so stupid and dangerous. She tells him to, like, block off the building or whatever. We'll deal with this thing later. So Joel and Ellie then try to climb 45 flights of stairs, knowing they'll only go as many as Joel is able to make it, which it turns out that is 33 flights of stairs.
I'm 56.
You little shit.
And I'm 50.
Great SNL reference. On the way up, Ellie asks Joel how he knew that guy who said he was hurt was an ambush. And Joel explains that he has been on both sides, as he puts it, and that basically they used to do shit like that, him and Tess and Tommy. Ellie asks if he's killed innocent people, and he doesn't answer that question. But they find a room to sleep in, and Joel scatters a bunch of glass and shit on the ground so nobody can sneak up on them while they're sleeping. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Joel asks Ellie what she meant earlier when she said it wasn't her first time hurting people, and Ellie says she doesn't want to talk about it. And that was a real how the turntables moment, because she's been peppering him with questions episode after episode, and he won't answer any of them, right?
Yeah.
And then he has a question. Now she won't answer it because she doesn't want to talk about it. It just again, there's been so many moments where you're like, man, these two really are similar.
Yeah.
Like they have
a lot
so
of parallels.
So many things in common. Ellie says she noticed that Joel doesn't hear so well out of his right ear, which he explains is probably more from shooting than being shot. And he says, if you want to keep your hearing, you stick to that knife. And they both lay down to get some shut-eye, and she says, Joel, did you know diarrhea is hereditary? Yeah, it runs in your genes. And finally, Joel breaks here. He smiles. This fucking thing, man. And that's our moment. That's the first time we see him really show an emotion aside from straight face, hardened, broken by the death of his daughter.
He lets the delirious giggle out.
Yeah, and he says, I must be losing my mind. She's like, oh, you are. But then in the night, Ellie wakes Joel because she has a pistol pointed at her, and so does Joel. And again, I'm got to assume this is Henry and Sam right here.
Yep.
Sam is the kid. He's got some red face paint going on. I'm not sure why Henry wouldn't be the one with his gun on Joel instead of Sam, the child, but whatever. Henry puts his finger on his mouth, right, and does the shh, and then the credits roll. And I'm very excited to get into these two characters because I think these two are from the game. Like,
okay,
when they were doing marketing for this show before it started, they did Sam was like in the marketing. Like they were referencing him as if he was a video game character that people would know. Again, curious to hear from the gamers if that's actually the case, but it seemed to be the case. And I know a little bit about him as a result, so I'm not going to say it today because it would be spoilerish.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty sure these are our two guys that Kathleen and her crew are looking for.
Yes, that's definitely what the implication that we could pick up on there.
And we will find out what happens with them next week. But this was an interesting one. It was kind of a stepping stone, as I've put it.
Yeah, a little bit. We got new characters. We got a new place. We talked about the relationship and the character building between Ellie and Joel. I thought that the recurring puns were a nice
that was fun.
Like a place to keep going back to.
Good lighthearted comic relief.
Yeah, and the last time when is a funny pun and it gets Joel and I think
it's an important moment, right, in their relationship.
And I thought that was really good because I think the cargo line that we mentioned is so harsh, and then I think that almost like the rest of the episode is like kind of the breaking down of that. Of the way that he is approaching this.
Yes.
And then I would also say that there's like...
She's getting to him, yeah.
I think that there was a lot about kind of like the loss of innocence kind of sprinkled throughout here. We know that Joel is scarred from losing Sarah 20 years ago.
Right.
And then he's got this kind of like this little girl who's kind of filling into the shoes, but just by nature of this world, like she's already lost the innocence.
Yeah, he's trying to protect something that's already kind of been lost a little bit, right?
Right. So I think that some of those themes are kind of starting to bubble up here as well.
Yeah, that was, like I said at the beginning of the pod, this one felt like an episode that was focused on the development of Joel and Ellie's relationship, right? Because we had Tess exit the frame, right? She's gone. And then the next episode after that was 95% Bill and Frank, which no one should ever complain about.
Yeah.
But we did need to get back to like, okay, now what's the deal with these two? How is this relationship going to work? What's going to happen here?
Yep.
And I think you very astutely put it that that cargo line sets us up for all of this, and Joel slowly breaking down. And it was fun to watch. And like I said, I'm thankful that it wasn't as stressful as any of the other episodes. This was the least stressful to me.
Okay.
For me personally, which because I'm emotionally exhausted was much appreciated. I didn't need any more tears or anything that could have tugged at my heartstrings at all. I can barely listen to music right now without crying, so I don't need that. Apparently that's the thing that happens after you have a baby.
Cat's in the cradle with a silver spoon.
But no, I enjoyed it, man, and this was a little bit Walking Dead feeling, the way they set up Kathleen as a character.
Yeah.
And they touched on after the episode that these characters were not fleshed out in the video game.
Right.
On the bad guy side here, which I'm assuming is the bad guy side. It's kind of perspective based, but Kathleen, the soldier, that whole group that overthrew Fedra here, they're simply an obstacle as Craig Mazin and Neil
Right.
Druckmann put it. In the video game, you just have to overcome this obstacle. There's no character building. There's no why are these people the way they are? What's happening? They wanted to humanize them. They wanted to give them more depth.
Yep.
And I thought they really achieved that
I
through
did too.
this
Totally.
first, fourth episode of the show. But one episode deep into getting to meet Kathleen and her people, you do kind of makes you ask questions like, wow, damn, her brother got beaten to death in one of these cells by Fedra. What was going on here? Like, what was Fedra doing? Why were they asking him questions?
Yeah, she's got reasons too.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And that's why I leave the episode like you know that she is, she's an obstacle, she's adversity here for
Certainly seems so.
for Joel and Ellie. It looks like it's going to be, but at the same time, you like it's hard to like call her like a straight up villain right now.
Yeah, it's just the context clues that they're giving us that make you can lean that way, right?
Yeah.
Well, because they're opposite are. Joel
Exactly,
kills these three guys. Those three guys get brought to her, and clearly now she's going to kill him if she finds him, right? So, no, but that's a great point, man. The way they're inserting humanity into every character that we spend time with or getting to know has been really, really impressive so far. Today's episode was also brought to you by our listeners supporting our show on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles in exchange for an additional exclusive ad-free episode per week where we digest and discuss each episode of The Last of Us with voicemails from our Mollusk Militia tier. Now, last week I had to write a column instead of recording the voicemail episode because my wife went into labor. But
Shame.
we will be back at it again this week. I will be leaving the house for an hour to come to the studio and record that episode for y'all with Barrett. So get your hotline calls in if you're in the bloater brigade, especially because our first bloater episode
might be coming
next week. Also on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles is all of Barrett and I's bonus coverage of House of the Dragon Season 1, of The White Lotus Season 2, and we did a companion podcast covering every single episode of The Sopranos, HBO's classic crime drama, friendly to first-timers and repeat watchers alike on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. So get on there and support the show for additional exclusive ad-free episodes, further digesting The Last of Us, driven by hotline calls from our listeners. Go to bolinmedia.com/shop to get yourself some OCC merch. Follow us on social media at Barrett Dudley on Twitter and Instagram. At WRBolin is my handle on Twitter and Instagram. The show is on TikTok at Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, on Instagram at Oysters, Clams, Cockles, and on Twitter at Clams and Cockles. Video of this episode was produced by Kade Orris here at Bolin Media headquarters, and we will be back later this week, Barrett. Any last words?
No, I think we got it all out, man.
We did it. Until next time, Clam Fam, if you're lost in the darkness, look for the light.